Here we go.
I was vibing with the music.
Yeah, it's a nice song. Generational cut, man. We can just keep that cut roll forever. But anyway, here you go. Welcome to another show, Above Average Black Men. Yours truly. Chris Jr. is not with us tonight. He's under the weather. You hear my grandson in the background giving us the background noise. He's good. Tonight's show. So we're going to talk about 5 to 10 things that we would change in society. It could be 5 to 10 things you change, 5 to 10 things you don't like. Just 5 to 10 things. You may have more.
I'll be honest, when you think about it, there's a couple things I would change in society. But, I'm a list person, so I'm going to gauge, what people have to say on the internet and different things and compare and contrast what you think, what I think.
Okay, you go ahead.
All right, so in my opinion, one of the things this is unpopular, probably. I feel like certain music should have an age limit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I got you. I thought you meant age like in long it can be played. You mean it is.
No, like certain music, has explicit nature, and I feel like you have to be a certain mindset or certain age to be able to listen to that. That is one thing I would go with. Same thing with video games. I feel like there has to be a restriction on that kind of content as well too. And this might be an unpopular one. Social media. I feel like there should also be an age limit on that as well too, or age restriction on that. I feel like once you're above a certain age, to vote is 18, so why not?
Yeah.
When you become 18, I feel like you should have access to the Instagram.
You can't buy alcohol till you're 21.
And I never understood that. I could vote for my country. I can go to war. But I can't buy alcohol.
Because you're not mature enough. Anyway.
But I'm mature enough to fight for this nation.
Because you're over at that time.
Mm-hmm. That's 3. Another.
I have a generational list, but go ahead.
A generational.
Because I always survey people, so my list is different from different people. So you go ahead. It's not on there. I got it in my head, man.
4, I think. Unpopular opinion again. When it comes to education, I feel like now people say, oh, they don't like the whole all year round. I understand that point, but at the same time, I feel like we're lacking when it comes to education in the world, so we have to have a big up at some point. So I feel like they should extend school a little bit longer. And that's easy for me to say now since I'm not in school. Back then, if you would have told me that, I would have been upset, but nowadays, I understand it. And the 5th one is tough. What would I change? Since we're on the topic of voting, I think they should actually raise the voting age to 21.
Interesting. Why?
Because again, speaking from personal experience, I didn't really understand or kind of grasp what I was voting for back when I turned 18.
Man, that's folk 38 who don't know what they're voting for.
Yeah, but you still get some kind of sense. Like, for example, when I was 18, Obama was still running. And, of course, he had great policies, But my main thing was just vote for him because he was black.
Yeah. So your list is an interesting list, though. My list is a little different. Not y'all poll people. I had a whole discussion with my staff at work. We sat around, we talked about this for a minute. The isms came up first. Racism.
Oh, that wasn't even
was at the top of the list that they felt needed to be addressed. That was both white and black.
Mm-hmm.
Sexism. So I was the only guy in the conversation, so I kind of figured that was going to come up, especially the recent comments around the election, because they specifically pointed to some things that were said in Madison Square Garden about Harris. Ageism, I didn't see that one coming.
Ageism.
Discrimination by age, because you see people too old to do things, they can't, work or do certain things just based on the age, not based on skill or qualification. So that was kind of interesting. education was on the list, but they were just, not to your extent, but the education system definitely needed to be addressed. Definitely need to be addressed, man. And not year-round school, but put more resources into it. They want education to become more of a priority in this country, not just lip service, but demonstrated by the dollar.
Maybe I should have said that. Yeah. More of a priority.
And more by the dollars. Mm-hmm. But, we invested like paying teachers more, better infrastructure, making sure the kids in decent buildings, air conditioning, those things. The fifth one was kind of interesting. Well, it's a couple more, but I'll go to the fifth one that somebody said today, and it was kind of funny, but it was a comment about men. How and it was based on the political climate, a bunch of things. It wasn't really directed at people, generalized, but it said that they just wish men in power wouldn't act like they knew it all. That society would give women a stronger voice and recognize that their voice is equal to what's being said, and not just because a man said it. And they particularly brought up the pro-life thing. That they felt like they kind of got screamed at, and and everybody. Some people are pro-life, but they just felt the way it was handled. That it was like men telling women, "We know what's good for you," kind of thing. So that was interesting. And there was a couple other ones that came up. The distribution of wealth. That was something they talked about. Like for instance, you can price gouge and nobody can say anything. People poor, but you can get away raising the prices because what you gonna do? You gotta eat. Mm-hmm. You gotta spend the prices, man. And that also talked about minimum wage. That this minimum wage is way below what people could live on, but you keep paying it, and you doing it like you living up to a standard, but the standard is so low. Mental health is one of the things they talked about. The country needs to do a better job of addressing mental health.
I agree with that one.
Yeah, they talked about that. The environment came up too. With global warming. That's an issue that needs to be taken a little more serious. And some of those are my personal ones as well. Another one that's personal for me is I think we have to be more purposeful about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Not lip service, not just have a bunch of people talk about it, but I think it has to be more purposeful. I mean, it should be town hall meetings. You should, put, white churches, black churches together. I think it has to be more concerted effort at all levels. That I would like to see.
Not just meeting the quota, but actually like making the effort.
Yeah, or not just we doing this because because we not because we said we were going to do it. Mm-hmm. So you can play with that. So there's a bunch of things, man, that I think could have been listed that society kind of definitely needs to work on. I just think in the whole, I think television has gotten really bad. The things you can see on television now during prime time. For our kids to see, and as one who works with kids, I see the fruit of it. Because parents have not done a good job of managing what the kid looks at. So the kids look at all this stuff and they're talking to me about it. And they really shouldn't be looking at it. I think that's a big one for me. That I think it should go back to and kids will probably still be up, but like certain things shouldn't come in before 9:00. They shouldn't be hearing the B word, or even if you beeping the word out, none of that should be taking place before 9:00. It really shouldn't. I think that definitely needs to be done. I think housing is a big issue in this country, man. The homelessness, something it needs to be a concerted action for the homeless. Mm-hmm. We got all these vacant houses and all these rundown neighborhoods, and it's funny because when we want to build new homes, we can buy them up and fix them and sell them for 10 times what they're worth, but we can't do anything about the homeless population. I think that definitely needs to be done.
It's funny. Yeah. A lot of the things you said were actually on this list online as well too. I'll run down it real quick. Income inequality, environmental sustainability.
Yeah.
Now we didn't mention this part, but I do think this is also true as well. Healthcare access.
Yeah.
You said diversity and inclusion. We talked about that, and we didn't speak on this as well. But criminal justice reform.
Yeah, but I think that also, I agree, it needs to be a specific topic. Mm-hmm. But I think that ties in also to you're talking about the distribution of wealth.
Yeah.
I think you have to Now, I think there has to be a give and take. And what I mean by give and take, nothing should be given to you. So give and take is the wrong phrase. You know, nothing should be given to you, but there needs to be more opportunities. But you need to be in a position to take advantage of those opportunities. You know, get your education. You know, kind of stay out of trouble, kind of thing. You know, and I think for young people, and I'm not making excuses, is not just about having jobs. And we know that's not working right now. I think, you know, you have to bring character education back, integrity to schools. You know, I think that has to be taught during the day, man. I think, you know, like they're talking about taking history out now. You know, that's another mistake. So I think part of what we see now is people who don't know their history. You know, why they're repeating it. You know, I think that has to be the forefront. You know, and it goes with education, but it has to be. And I think if you can teach people, like most people don't know the difference between a job and a career. You know, that stuff has to come back, you know, into the school system, you know, to give them a better understanding. Because poverty, face it, the world is, for rich people, the world is better off when they have the have and have-nots.
Yeah.
For us, it's not. You know, but for people with money, with wealth, it is. You know, it's because they can dominate. You know, they know they can manipulate. You know, the labor market because folk gotta work. You know, to keep it going. So if I keep prices high, you got to come to work and you got to work harder, you know, so it's kind of, you know, it can be manipulated, man, you know, so, but when you start distributing the wealth, you know, people feel, you know, people are free. People want to speak a little louder. You know, I think if you start distributing the wealth, man, you'll see people, you know, families, because they'll be in a better position to do things differently.
So let me ask you this: out of all the things we mentioned, is there one that is more pressing or more important?
I think we go hand in hand, but if I had to choose one, it would definitely be education. And the reason why I say education is because I believe through education you can change the rest of it. I think if you tighten up the educational system and you do what's supposed to be done, and you teach people the right way, and you have the right teachers in there, and the institutions are funded to do the things they need to do, you can kind of negate some of the poverty. You know, because they can get better jobs. You know, you can have more entrepreneurs. You can have more opportunities for people to do things. I think you can combat racism because you can teach, you know, model in some of our educational institutions. You know, so I think you can combat that as well. I think a lot of those issues, social pathologies that we talk about, can be found, you know, can be fixed or at least curbed with some type of education. So to me, I would say education because I think it's almost like the old saying: if you give a guy a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach him how to fish, he fishes for a lifetime. And I still believe a good education system is at the core of any thriving civilization. It has to be.
And it's interesting you say that because, in my opinion, that would probably be second on my list. Obviously, education is important and different things like that. I feel like income inequality is probably first on my list. To be honest, just because, like you said, there's the have and have-nots. It's a lot of people saying that the middle class is a facade now. Instead, it's just you got the rich and you got the people.
Well, I don't think it's dead. I just think it shrinks. I mean, it shrinks, man, probably every 4 years. And this is no slam on the president or whatever. It just shrinks every 4 years. But I think they're like you know, we're considered middle class. You know, poverty is people who make like 15K. You know, so you know we're not at the poverty level. You know, we're not rich, but we will be considered middle class. It shrinks. I definitely think it shrinks, and it's continuously shrinking faster and faster. And the reason why I say education was I think if you teach people the right way, you can combat some of that stuff. You know, you can negate some of that stuff.
That's true, but I feel like a lot of these teachers are underpaid to begin with, too, want to go that extra mile to be the best teacher that they can be. We have social media influencers that make more than all these teachers pretty much do. And once you start paying or you distribute this income a little bit across the board, maybe teachers get more, they start to get that love for teaching again.
But that's the investment in education. Part of the investment in education
it all goes hand in hand.
Is investing in the people who are actually doing it. Like, again, we put a female wrestling mongo in charge of Department of Education. You know, Vince McMahon's wife is the chair of education. So once again,
really?
Yeah.
I know that.
So once again, you make a mockery of education, man. You know, come on. No experience. Linda McMahon, no experience whatsoever because he's Trump and I can do that. But again, this goes back to education because even with the election, there's people now who now understand who they voted for, who didn't understand before because they looked at one issue and they didn't educate themselves on his entire platform. They didn't pay attention. And now it's kind of late because he's in there now.
Yeah.
And I think that's where education comes in because education is not just what you learn in school. It's also educating yourself on what's happening in society, what's happening in politics, what's happening in your culture. And I think for a lot of we're ignorant to that as a group of people we are. And I think that has to change. And I think, education, you start there because I think I do agree being in schools. If I'm in a school and it's light and bright, I feel different. But if I'm in a school and it's kind of dark, it's a different vibe. And I'm an adult, so I can imagine how kids feel. And somebody told me this a long time ago. That's why he said you don't see bright colors in prisons because they're not trying to stimulate you. And a lot of schools have taken on that facade.
Now, just to go back a little bit, I'm curious. Just I had a question about. Someone said ageism.
Yeah.
Now, can you elaborate a little bit more on ageism? What's the barrier there?
Because you get a certain age and people don't want to hire. You can be qualified, you can be all these things, and some people think you're just too old. That's ageism. And she gave me 3 credible examples. One, she says like people who retire and try to go back to the workforce, and because they realize they shouldn't retire, it's hard to find a job, a good job, because of age, or you get to a certain age and they start passing you up for promotion because they want somebody younger, so age is an issue.
But just playing both sides here, I feel like my counter to that would be from an organizational standpoint. I don't know how much longer you could be here for another 6 months to a year, 2 years, and then you feel like, oh, I'm good enough to retire. Then I got to do this whole thing all over again.
What's the difference if you get a millennial or a new person who they don't stay long anyway?
See, I feel like that would be more likely to.
They come and they stay until and I don't blame them. I'm not knocking them, but they stay until they can get more experience to get a better offer elsewhere. They take I don't say they chase the money. They're trying to improve their quality of life. So I think it's the same. I think it's pretty much. I hear what you're saying, but you take that risk with anybody. Those days of people getting jobs and staying. I mean, a lot of people staying in the job 20, 30 years. They don't exist anymore.
I feel like that's more of a recent thing, though. Like that within the last maybe 15, 20 years, you started seeing more of that. Like, this company is offering more. I'm just going to jump.
Yeah. So what's the difference then if a 25-year-old do it or a 65-year-old do it? It's still. I'm only going to be here for a little bit of time.
If that 25-year-old feels like they're treated well and being compensated well, they're going to stay versus that 65-year-old.
I disagree with that. 25-year-olds, I mean, and that's how they live. And I'm not knocking it, but people in that bracket who I talk to, they want to maximize their value. So they're thinking it's not about, if I'm somewhere and I'm making $75,000 and they treat me nice, and I got a chance to go somewhere and make $100,000, I'm out of here. Most people don't even investigate the culture of the organization they're going into. They just how much is paid, what the benefits, how many vacation days I get. And I'm not knocking it, but I'm just saying the realization we are now is there's no guarantee anybody's going to stay there a long period of time. And now it comes down to, do you want quality? Because you can hire somebody who has experience, been on the block, who can do certain things, and I'm not saying hire somebody with physical limitations, but I think so ageism is real, man. And I think wisdom comes with age, but there's something for being around the block a couple times, having been there, having done it, and now you're trying to train or teach somebody else, versus somebody who hasn't been there, done it, trying to run things. So there's a difference. So I mean, I think in today's market, you can say that about anybody.
And then again, to go back, the sexism part, was it just about pro-life versus pro-choice, or?
Well, it's sexy they were talking about because people that wouldn't vote for her because she's a woman. People don't vote for Harris because she's a woman. you know, or
So is it just about the presidential race, or
no,
talking about all over the board?
that just opened up. It's. I mean, somebody said this to me, and it's very true. You know, more than qualified women get passed over every day in this country for guys. You know, guys, there's a different pay strategy when it comes to guys for a lot of companies. Where guys make because he's a guy. You know, the assumption is he's a guy, he's in the household. He got to make one. You know, so I get what they're talking about, and I see as an issue. I think the thing with Harris just kind of made it a huge issue now because people were used to saying in private, you know, now became public. So I think it became a huge thing, but you know, it's real. It's the same thing. And to me, I don't want to make it too simple,
Yeah.
but I think those are three things that if America put his heart and his money and behind it, you could kind of stand me off racism. I mean, it's always going to exist, but it won't be too existent as now. Right now, it's cool to be a racist. They don't care. You know,
I think people think it's funny.
Just like in Ohio, them guys walking down the street with
Yeah.
Nazi stuff, and a bunch of young white guys, and they think that's cool. You know, but it shouldn't be cool. That should be punished. That's like a hate crime. You know, it should be met with punishment, a severe punishment.
I feel like people think that's a different level of trolling, if that makes sense. You know,
Well, because
people think that's hilarious.
And I
And it's not.
don't want to get into the politics
Yeah.
thing because Trump made it cool. Because see, this is what's wrong when you laugh at things that are not funny.
Mm.
You know, when you turn something into a comedy thing and it wasn't meant for comedy, and people laughed at Trump and made fun of him, and now it's becoming a norm. You know, it's becoming a norm now. So I think, you know, that's the thing about social media we were talking about, and even the media. You know, that's enough. They should be made to tell the truth. If they tell a lie, they should get fined.
That's really tough to do.
No, I should just like this whole political election. I believe it should mind me. You know, just like this election.
Mhm.
You know, there were so many untruths being told, man, and it got to a point where you could just listen to it and know it wasn't true. And but what was the penalty? They were allowed to do it. You know, a lot of stuff that was said in the election, you know it wasn't true. You know, but it was allowed to happen. Why? Because it's entertaining. Because people, you know, thought it was okay, and now because people thought it was okay, and then they saw it get bigger, 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 bigger. You know, just like 8 years ago, people thought Trump wasn't going to win because it was just Donald Trump. Now he's back again, and now he told you what he's going to do. And this is not a show about the election, but you know, when you can't, when you ignore stuff like that, that's bad, that's detrimental, that's negative to society. You know, eventually it's going to bite you in the butt, and eventually it's going to come your way. And so what we're seeing right now is, you know, when you kick a can down the road and keep kicking down the road, sooner or later you get to the end of the road. So I think that's another thing society has to do a better job of not controlling because it's free speech, but at least you got to tell the truth. You know, I mean, it's ironic that the guy who invented the phrase fake news is always involved in fake news. But I just think you have to. That's another thing society have an issue with, man. I think we have to do a better job. Like for me, for instance, this is why I'm not in charge, because to me, I would give kids 3 tracks in school. You would have 3 tracks you can go on. You would have the municipal track, which means you graduate and you get a job work for the city, the county, cleaning the park, whatever it is. You know, you would have the trade/careers. You know, you can go to a trade or go to college, get your education, do things of that nature. You know, have a business. You know, and then I would have the military track. You know, you go into the military. You know, they would be your choices. All this, I'm finding myself doing nothing. That to me, that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
It's not acceptable. And I think you should, and then you attach stuff to it. You know, you shouldn't be just because you chose not to get a job, go sign up for welfare or something like that. You know, you never worked a day in your life. You don't plan on working a day in your life. Nah, I just don't. That's not cool.
There's people out here that think like that.
I know, but that's because there's no safeguards in place, and that's what has to be fixed. And the problem with it is, you know, this is the problem we have as society is we don't think down the road. So when it's happening, everybody's talking about it, everybody's yeah. Now when something comes along, and now all of a sudden if they stop it, like when Reagan was in office and Reagan decided he was going to cut back welfare, cheese lines, all that stuff popped up. and nobody ever thought about the long-term effect on poor people.
Can you break that down? Cheese lines.
They used to get in line to get government cheese and get food and stuff like that
Okay.
because there'd be long lines of people getting free food, and they used to give away these blocks of cheese. Was part of the cheese line. So I mean, again, it goes back to what we initially talked about. The society has to change the way it thinks. That's part of the issue. Until society changes the way it thinks, you only get the same thing. Definition of saying he's on the same thing over and over for different results, and that's what we're seeing now. Education is already bad, and they're talking about taking funding from it. And he's living just like again. You put Linda McMahon, who was just,
what is her background?
Nuts, I guess, because maybe she read to the wrestlers. I don't know. She doesn't have a back. He put a bunch of TV people. I don't want to get into it. He put a bunch of TV people. Fox, the Oz. He gave Dr. Oz a position.
Is he a real doctor?
No. And so, but again, this goes back to what I said. Society relies so much on social media, and you said as well, that we people have sound bites. So we just go off the sound bites. We don't do our research. We ignorant to the fact that we don't dig deep enough. And because I hate to say it, it almost takes a society monitoring what we listen to, what we look at, to help us get back on track, because we feed ourselves with the dumb stuff and we believe it.
Everything has to be fact checked at this point.
And it
should have been like this, but still.
But it should be fact checked before it becomes on TV. It should. I think that's part of the problem we have in society, that we say free speech. We do, but it's not free speech for everybody. Like if I walked into a movie theater and hired fire, they would lock me up. They would. If I was walking downtown and I hollered there's a bomb and there was no bomb, they would lock me up. But I can get on TV and lie all day long. And nobody, I can say they're eating your cats and dogs. So that part has to be tightened up. And again, I think it goes back to how our society is, man. Society, we like sound bites, man. We like the reality shows. We like those things that entertain us. The problem with it is it's starting to saturate our kids, where our kids think, and I'm seeing their behaviors. That little kids should not be exhibiting. And that's something that we have to change. We have to be more mindful, man, about what we're feeding our kids. We keep saying make America great again. And not we, but people say it. So my question, I challenge people: at what time did you think it was great? Did you think it was great when we were in slavery? Did you think it was great when women couldn't vote? Did you think it was great during Jim Crow?
Because there's been some drastic times within American history.
Yeah. Yes. But again, it's how you paint the picture. And society has painted this picture, man, that that it was great. And people don't know any better think it was great.
It was great for a certain group of people.
Yeah.
But across the board, it wasn't great.
But this is where, and I know this may sound like a dictatorship, but this is where society has to become more responsible, because the people are not demonstrating they can be responsible. It's like if I give you $1 million, and you blow it, I'm not going to give you another $1 million. We're going to work on how we spend this next $1 million. And I think that's unfortunate. You kind of got to go back there again. I was talking to somebody today. Oh, education will be right because it's going to go back. People in a lot of states. Well, the states don't have money for education. The states get federal dollars for education. So now the states can be responsible. So that means they got to raise taxes. And if you got states, or especially with a lot of cities who have a lot of urban communities, where you getting the money to raise taxes from?
And when they say the states, that's kind of confusing, because who is the person?
Pennsylvania will be in charge of, we out here in Shelton.
Yeah.
We get very little. We already get very few federal dollars. So how do they generate tax? School tax? They raise our taxes. And that's why we have some of the highest taxes, in the state here. So now you're telling the state now, we need you to pick up more of the cost of education. Don't work like that. So people, no, he's not cutting. He is cutting. He just not come out and saying it, because he's saying, I'm not going to give you more federal dollars. The state's going to be responsible now. So that means that the state's going to have to get it from the feds, or they got to come up with their own revenue stream. And how are you going to come up with taxes? But how can you already tax people who barely making ends meet? And can you generate enough taxes to change the infrastructure of schools? No. So I think that's the kind of thing where we have to become more educated, and society has to pick it up, because we allow it, man.
And we didn't speak on this one, maybe because we spoke about politics the last couple of weeks. But another one that was on this list is fostering greater civic engagement. Now, it's saying that it's encouraging active participation in democratic processes like voting, volunteering, and community organizing.
That was the fourth thing I didn't get a chance to talk about.
Yeah.
And I think that should be, everybody should in school, in high school, should have to do some kind of community service. There should be some kind of class or course about the political system, including mock voting. I did it when I was running after school program to introduce the kids. I had 2 people give speeches about promises and stuff. That needs to be in place. So to your point, when kids do turn 18, they're more educated in how to navigate the system and how to vote. Why is it important to vote? I think I read somewhere 330,000 people didn't vote in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
15 million Democrats didn't vote across the country. That's the election. Because he didn't win by as much as I thought he did. They were going over it this morning. That's a difference in an election, bro.
Do you think that's something they should teach in social studies, or just a whole different class?
I think there needs to be a class. I think there needs to be a civic engagement class, and part of the civic engagement class would be we spend a semester learning about the political system, about both parties, how it works, about the voting process, about how legislation is passed. All
the
those
3
things.
branches of government.
And then another part needs to be where you do community service. You go down to a food bank. You go. You do those things. And another part needs to be just about citizenship. What does it mean to be a citizen of the United States of America? What does it mean to be a part of a country? What are your rights in this country, man? What are your responsibilities in this country? What are your expectations in this country? I think those things need to be done and should be woven into the curriculum.
Now this is just a question, not to get a little off topic, because I remember when I was growing up, I went to the Cheltenham school system. One thing I always thought that was pretty cool was you had high schoolers go to those like elementary schools and middle schools and help them kids with their homework or just be there with those kids.
I don't know if they still do it. I don't know. It's a great idea.
Would you put that across the board?
Well, I mean, it would depend on, because we got some high school kids who don't need to be around kids.
I mean, you could do that. I feel like you could do that back then.
But I mean, now I'm talking about now. But I think, to me, there's senior citizen homes. You could take them to a senior citizen home, and it would be credit, of course. There's things you could do, give out food to the homeless, man. There's shelters around the city. There's things you could do, maybe cut toiletries that you can donate to a citizen, maybe get a bunch of people to make some greeting cards or something you can take down to a senior citizen. There's a bunch of things you can do, man. But I think we're assuming that people are naturally going to, develop or morph into these people who give, and that's not happening. We have to do a better job of teaching people, man, why it's important to give. It's just your neighbor, we got to get back down to the bare bones, because we're going the opposite direction. We're in society now was about being like the movie, the movie Forge. It's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, see it. It's my plug for it. But that whole movie was about, it was about a couple of things, but it's a powerful part of the movie, powerful to me, where the guy's son gets killed by a drunk driver. And he ends up mentoring this drunk driver and leading him to Christ. And they're in this group together. That's the stuff that needs to be taught.
A lot of people couldn't do that.
But I'm not saying everybody could, but that's grace and mercy. That's giving back. Just when I try to get guys together, let's go into a school, let's do something, that's giving back. And you can go into a school and read to some kids. You got to go in and be a mentor. You can go read some kindergarten, read to some first graders. There's so many things you can do. You can go, you and a couple guys get permission from the school, but just stand in the school, get a lunchtime recess, around the schoolyard to, try to keep, different things under control. There's so many things we can do. And I think that's part of America, teaching these kids, man, that has to be a part of education. We got to stop saying it should be happening at home, because it's not, we know it's not. So we got to stop saying that. We know it's not. So now we got to take these mechanisms or these lessons, whatever you want to call it, and put it in our schools again. So kids can know. And another reason, you got to do it because some of these parents don't know. They about as dumb as a bag of rocks. So you can't give what you don't have. I say that a lot, but you can't. So you want a group of parents or a generation of parents who don't know how to be parents to all of a sudden become these great parents and teach their kids, and they don't have a wherewithal. And again, society knows all this, man, because people comment on it all the time. But there's nothing in place. There's nothing in place to talk about it. Nothing. Or nothing's being done about it.
And like I said, it kind of goes right back to my point, because when I was in school, I thought stuff like that was interesting, because one, you get a whole nother different perspective, and two, just seeing someone who, is still a little closer to your age, but they're still a grown up, just reaching out and showing that they care like that was something that always was special to me. Another thing on this list, and I kind of spoke about it before, advocating for responsible technology use.
Well, it goes back to education, because you have to define responsible, because I think, I just think it's too much. I think sometimes when you go out to dinner, everybody at the table on their phone. I think, when I was growing up, TV wasn't on. We sat down at dinner table. It was a different time frame. So I think that's subjective. So what do you mean? What's reasonable? Because what's reasonable to me is not reasonable to everybody else. But I do think there needs to be some type of stipulation, some type of boundary set on that.
Well, when they say advocating for responsible technology use, more so addressing issues like privacy concerns, online misinformation, digital addiction through regulations and education.
But it goes back to how much you want it. I mean, you get addicted because you want it all the time. And the more you want it, the more you got to have it. It goes. When I was growing up, 3, 6, and 10 and 12. 3, 6, and 10 and 12. Then it was 3, 6, 10, 12, 17, 29, and 48. That was it. That was the challenge, bro. TV went off 12 o'clock at night, man. If you stayed up past 12 o'clock at night, all you saw was the flag, and and it was playing the national anthem was playing. So I'm not saying TV has to go off, but what we expose people to has to be changed, man. We have more kids. There's more kids who probably can sing the top 5 rap songs and not know how to write their name.
I actually experienced that working at.
I know you did.
I was
I'm
surprised, like kids were singing songs that I wouldn't even listen to.
But see, this goes back to societies. Our preferences are out of order, because that guy can, the person who wrote that song, who wants to publish the song, can talk about freedom of speech. But you go into school and try to talk about something positive that people don't like, it ain't gonna happen. So again, I think it comes back to, I think we're kind of in a peculiar place, man. I think society needs to take a look at itself and begin to police itself. If it was business or anything else, you would take a look at it and say, well, I've been doing this way for this long. This model is not working, or things get progressively worse. Let me figure out how to change it.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting. Like you said, even now, when I was growing up, I feel like technology really started to come about. But at the same time, I always remember you telling us to, or at least like you said, sitting down Sundays on the weekends, and we'd be in the dining room just having dinner, not looking at the TV. Like you said, a lot of these kids just grow up with the whole tablet in front of their face, and that's all they know. That's who's teaching them about life. And that,
but it's like I used to tell you before, man. What you put in comes out, and if that's all you put in, that's what's going to come out. And too many of our kids, man, are not putting things in that are useful. They know the latest dances and all this stuff like that, man. Little kid in one of my programs who was autistic, man. He's highly functional. He's telling me about Fortnite. He plays Fortnite with his brother. He's in the 3rd grade. And he has some other issues, and he's playing Fortnite. But he's not learning how to read. He's not learning how to write effectively. That's a lot of these kids. Now, that's a lot of these kids in these programs, man. And they grow into, what happens is they grow up into adults with those same issues. And until society America takes a look at itself and says, we want to fix these issues, until you fix the education system, you're never going to get rid of poverty.
Yeah, I remember growing up, we had to write a book report every summer.
Yeah,
Like they really made sure,
yeah.
like we read a book
Yeah.
every summer to write a book report that was due on the first or second day of school.
If you did
Now, is that a thing?
No, if you did that now, it'd be child abuse, man.
Really?
I had parents complaining because, we asked their kids to read a book. Try to carve out time. So instead of the kids sitting there playing all the time and waiting on the computer time, read a book. Reading is a fundamental skill that you will need to survive, to have any hint at being successful. You have to learn how to read.
In any aspect of life, you need to learn
So,
how to read. That's interesting. I did not know that.
Some schools don't even give out homework now. A couple teachers say don't give it out because nobody ever does it. They never get it back. So it's just different, man. Again, I think society, education has to be at the top of the list. I think the media is definitely at the top of the list. Because I think certain things shouldn't be on till after 9 o'clock. And even then you got a problem because some parents with their kids stay up all night. But at least you take out some of them. As society as a whole has to put an emphasis on education, on the infrastructure. I think we have to come back to we got to bring some industry back, man. We got to bring some companies back here that make television sets, that make auto parts. I think they got to come back. Now, the flip side about it is getting people to work. Everybody want to make $100,000 a week. But I just think, you have to, society, we're the police now, man. We got to take a hard look at ourselves and see what can we do to make this better. It's like the question about Trump. Trump's in office, so it don't matter now. What I mean by it doesn't matter now, we put him in office, so now we subjected to whatever he decides.
Yeah.
But what I mean by it doesn't matter now is we got to start thinking about what's next. We can't be complaining and moaning and groaning because, whoever got into the choice, we got to think about what's next. Because he already told you what he's going to do. So how do we offset that?
What's the action to kind of, make things better across the board? Now, just one last question, just because I'm curious. We talked about how much society has to change. What do you think, if there is anything going well for society, is there anything that you would say is like, oh yeah, like this is brilliant. We need more of this.
Well, I don't know about brilliant, but democracy is huge. I think, United States of America, and it's not perfect, but democracy, having the ability to vote, the ability, that you can go to school, you can go there and defund it, but you can do things that there was a time we couldn't. So I think you have to give props to them because, but right now, there's people out there right now, who are doing the right thing, who have learned some things, There's some people who just needed to break, they didn't get a break.
I will say, even though I thought the texts were annoying and I thought the constant ads were annoying,
No, they were annoying.
They were very annoying, but just the sense of urgency to pay attention to the political landscape, at least at this time period, was very
But you know why you
interesting.
You can't, and I say this all the time, if you want to get more people engaged, if you want to get people, make sure they're properly educated, you got to start this with, you need to start getting the push from the Democrats to 2-3 weeks before election, man. By then it's too late. By then I've been exposed and indoctrinated to all this stuff that's going on, man. And I'm believing the sound bites, so you got to do a better job of that.
Kind of getting out there to spread their message. So that's one thing I will say.
We all do.
About Trump's campaign and everything. He was all over it. He was visiting those popular.
Nothing though.
He wasn't, but at the same time, his face was out there.
But see, this goes back to about changing society.
Mm-hmm.
We got to start looking for quality and not quantity. We got to look for people who are going to benefit us, man. Benefit the United States of America, not themselves. When I have people say, "Yeah, well, Trump know how to make money." Yeah, but he only ever made money for himself. He didn't make money for anybody else. And I'm not turning this into an election show, but I'm saying this goes back to us not being educated, not understanding, everything that was involved in this campaign, understanding everything that was at risk in this campaign. and people just didn't. People heard there was a one-horse pony, and they jumped on it. And one thing about America is sound bites, and somebody charismatic, it's over.
Actually, just kind of brought me to one more
It's
point.
over.
I would say one more thing that society needs to change. There needs to be, again, there's a lot of individualism going on. That's fine, but there needs to be more collaboration.
Yeah.
In terms
I
of,
would agree with
like
that.
you said, if you have a common goal, how are we going to get there? If like I said, more of a community sense, there needs to be more collaboration across the board, and you don't really see enough of that nowadays.
Well, one thing that politics did this time around that I thought they did better than the other time, which was bad, was be divisive. They were very divisive, man. There was little come to Jesus moments, for lack of a better term, where it was just, okay, I need you to just vote for me, and I'm saying all these bad things about the other person, and not, instead of saying, let's just focus on what I got to offer. What can I do? How can I make things better? And I just, and it's tough. We live in a tough world.
Yeah.
We live in a tough world, man. And we live in a world where, a lot of men are not holding up the end of the bargain. And it's hard for a woman to raise a boy to be a man. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's hard. And typically at some point in time, that kid is going to emulate some man somewhere down the line. And that's why sometimes you see kids and people say, oh, he's in a good family. Yeah, but they're persuaded by somebody else.
Yeah, that's when people are very impressionable nowadays.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Well, I think we raise a generation of followers.
Yeah.
As we get ready to close, I do. I honestly think we do, that we raise a generation of followers.
Yeah, because at the same time, like I said, there should be collaboration, but at the same time, think for yourself.
Yeah, but everybody says that, but that's not what they want. That's why they inundate you with these commercials and sound bites and things, because the whole goal is to pull you off, is to get you comfortable and listening to them.
Yeah.
That's the whole goal.
Well, another great show we had. Above Average Black Men on all platforms. Again, we're here to empower, inspire, and uplift the community. And like, follow, subscribe, share, comment, interact with us. A2BM. Chris Jr. That's weird. I never call him Chris Jr. That's very odd.
We need to watch it, man. Get better, son.
Yeah, hope you feel better.
See you guys next week, Thanksgiving week. So next week, the show is going to be about 5 to 10 things we're grateful about. That's going to be our Thanksgiving show.
I like that.
All right? So call in and join us. Talk to you guys later, man.